too loud. Hello, welcome. Hello, it's my face tonight. Hi, David. Hello. Hi, Sherry. Hi, Olga. Good to see you. Good to see you. Welcome. Hi. Yes, hello. Hi, Pamela. Good to see you. Glad you could come by tonight. I have my face up tonight, but we will be going through some paperwork for sure. Oh, thank you. Yes. Oh, thank you so much, Monty. I appreciate that. I really do. That's so kind of you to say. It's good to see you. Mama, good to see you. Oh, thank you. Yes, Olga, we're going to be going through the Project 2025 manifesto. I don't know of a better word to call it than that, but it's about the Presidential Transition Project. So, hopefully, yes. Hi. Oh, hello from Mississippi. Jay, welcome. Good to see you. Hi, Lisa. Hello. Hi, David. Travel. Nice to see you. Hi, Ellen. Oh, I'm glad you could come by. Appreciate that. Let me just make it. It is Monty, but I think my goal is to make it a little bit less scary for everybody. So I'm gonna take you through it, but it shouldn't be too bad, I don't think. Roberta, hello. DJ, good to see you. Erica, yes, welcome. Sequin, hello, good to see you. CJ, oh, always a treat to have you here. Hello from Pittsburgh, excellent. Yeah, 900 pages is a lot, although really the first 50 pages are just introduction. So if that helps a little bit, I think it's a little bit better. Vicky, hello, Frank. Good to see you. Michaela, yes, I have been going on streaming on YouTube, but only on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So Mondays and Thursdays, I'm here on TikTok. So yes, 900. You've done your homework. Wonderful, Frank. I love to hear it. Diane, hi. From Oregon. Oh, I love it. Welcome. U.S. Army 25 years. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, I'm just so happy to see everybody. I know the format's a little bit different tonight, but I thought this would be a better way rather than showing the entire manifesto. I thought we could kind of walk through it together instead. Nice to see your face. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Yes. Oh, hi from DC. Love that. Norse, of course. Welcome. Yes, so tonight we'll be going through Project 2025. I've been posting on it, giving some sneak peeks, but I wanted to be able to talk with everybody about it tonight, kind of go through what the outline is for it, thank you, and answer questions that people may have, because there are a lot of questions, I think. Oh, thank you. That's so sweet. Oh, from Arizona. Oh, love that. Warrior Life. That's so kind of you to say. Yes, Jeff Clark. We will be doing Project 2025 tonight. Yes. Hi from Georgia. Welcome. Oh, yes. Oh my gosh. I'm very glad that he was apprehended as well. That was quite scary. Yes. Oh, hi, Ava. Hello. Hi from California. Deborah. Good to see you. Love it. Yeah, buckle your seatbelts. Yeah, I've got some good information. I think that will help people kind of work through it. It seems like at first glance, it's definitely uncomfortable, but I think once we kind of look at it, it's not as new or unique as I think a lot of people think it may be. Oh, Pilar, hello, welcome. Good to see you. Hello from Oregon, Sassenach. Oh, thank you. Good to see you. Oh my goodness. Ooh, Hurricane Lee. Oh, good luck. I hope it's okay. Oh, from Canada and California. Goodness. Yes, Vicky, you're right. You're absolutely right. Hello, Tony. Hi, good to see you. Oh, from Indiana. We love that. Very good. Yes, it seems the premise, of course, is very off-putting, I think, for most people, actually. But when you look at it, it's nothing that's necessarily new that's been put on the table. Watching from the UK, oh, Selena, that's fabulous. I love that. I just want to know what's the nexus between Project 25 and the Seven Mountains Doctrine. Well, that's a good question. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Here, give me one moment. One moment, please. Let me double check what I've got. Let's see here. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I think there's definitely some overlap, some pretty significant overlap between those two doctrines for sure. Is 2025 good or bad? I think the way that it's structured is quite a bit about control. It's really a power and a control situation. And so I think we don't really want to redo our constitution. And so this is kind of a backdoor attempt, as a lot of the executive orders during Trump's presidency were. So I think that was really foreshadowing. So if you found any of those executive orders during 2016 to 2020, if those were not what you would like, that's pretty much what they're doing here. It's the same thing. In fact, I believe a huge percentage of the executive orders that Trump did put in place were based off of this exact doctrine. So this ideology was what he based his executive orders off of. So we'll kind of talk about that. So can you be given jail time or a fine, or is that double jeopardy? You can be given jail time or a fine and a fine, depending on how the statute's written. Typically, you can get one of each. So most were reversed, Frank. Yes, although not all of them. There were some that weren't. But a lot of them were revoked, especially, a lot of the environmental pieces, a lot of the, we had the Dakota Access, we had the Paris Accord that we had pulled out of, but then now we're back in again. So I'm convinced this was always in motion. They just need a mark crazy enough to ignite. CJ, I think that's really accurate. So, right. Let me give you a little overview here. So as we go into talking about the Project 2025, 2025 sets out basically four different pieces that they're trying to, this group of people are trying to put forward. Now, again, it's nothing new. It's this idea that the bureaucracy or the federal government is bad, which is exactly how the Articles of Confederation were as well. We didn't have really a federal government, and that's why it failed. We had to have the Constitution written. But what they're trying to do is remove the federal government pieces. And also, they want to have complete control over who gets appointed to the White House, meaning they're going to put together this list, this list of best candidates. And their goal was like 10,000 people or more. So they want to kind of go through, list out a whole bunch of people that they think are good. And so when a Republican president comes in, they can pick through this list for all of the cabinet positions and all of the other things that the positions open in the executive branch. So that's a piece of it. Now, they also want to set up trainings for anyone who's going into the executive branch would have to go through Project 2025, receive training about the proper way of approaching issues, and they want it to be family and faith oriented, which of course is unconstitutional. So those kinds of trainings themselves would be unconstitutional, but they're trying to kind of put this into place and say, if you're part of the White House, you have to go and get this training. After, of course, they remove everyone. That's another piece of it. They're trying to remove a whole bunch of people from the federal government, like long-term employees, take them, move them out of the way, bring in new people from this list, and train them how they want them to be trained. So That's a huge piece of it. A lot of it, it is a manifesto. I think we have to keep that in mind. It's an idea, a way to structure the government or restructure the government, particularly the federal government. So that executive branch. Right. Well, Ava, it's really, they're trying to use every inch of power of the executive branch to accomplish their goals for conservatism. And not even all conservatism, it's specific to what they believe their conservatism should be. So, right. So here we go. Good question. They are a group of conservatives. I wouldn't necessarily say that they're a special category, a subcategory of, hello, Jordy, of conservatives. Now, because you have to really meet this high level, I have, again, the first part set out where we have a list of the names. So let me walk you through some of the names. Ultra conservatives. Yeah, I think that's a really great way of saying it, because I know a lot of conservatives that would not be able to be on their list. Is it plausible they can implement this in any way? They already have. I think that's one of the biggest pieces I want to share with everyone is this has already been in the mix for decades. And based off of what Trump did in his presidency, he already implemented quite a bit of what this plan was. So we've already been through this process. I'm not sure a lot of people understand really what it's been about. So let me explain. They are wanting to have certain policies. This core group of conservatives, right? The Heritage Foundation, various other people. And they have this way they want to look at American history only in a certain way. And President Trump had put an executive order in saying we can only look at history in this certain way. They had wanted to do away with the clean water pieces with environmental protections. That matched up exactly with his executive orders. So what I'm trying to say is this isn't something new that's just come out that they're just going for 2025. I think they've renamed it. But this was the game plan for President Trump. So this is what his mission was when he was first elected. So none of this is new. None of this is new ideologies or new ways of implementing it. What they needed at that time, a bit of it started with Reagan. I think that's absolutely fair. But what they needed was someone to carry out their mission, right? They found that person in Trump. He carried out a huge part of their mission with his executive orders because the president only has a certain amount of power. We have checks and balances, and the president can only do so much. The most amount of damage, or the most amount that a president can do on their own, oh, thank you, is with executive orders. And he did that. He overturned a whole bunch of President Obama's policies and came back in, wrote his own. Now, President Joe Biden came in and reversed a whole bunch of Trump's executive orders. So that's the kicker here is that, the ideologies and the implementations, a huge part of it's just simply unconstitutional. It's just unconstitutional. You cannot have federal employees attend training sessions where the goal is a Christian ideology. That's just unconstitutional. So that's the first piece. The big thing, they want to train people. That's just not allowable because of the Christian piece of it. It's unconstitutional. But the next piece is that they want to create this database of executive orders. Right, which Christian ideology? I think that's a great question. I think it's probably the strongest one. I think there is some evangelical support in particular, but I don't want to just point actually at only them because it's a combination. But here's the deal though, right? The executive orders that they're proposing are the same as ones we've already seen. Keep in mind, when a lot of the executive orders went through with Trump, when he signed them, there was litigation because they were seen as unconstitutional. and litigation lasted for years. And after that, once it was, to a point where people were starting to enforce the executive orders, it was time for a new election. Someone had said, name one. Do you mean one of the executive orders? Sure, let me get you one. So let's talk about, Trump's order, Executive Order 1379-5. And in this executive order, it set out offshore energy, which has been very controversial, right? Going and taking different energy resources from other places. And the reason why this was passed, or why he sent this executive order out, was to trim the budget. That was the goal with almost all of his environmental executive orders, was to see, can we do this cheaper? And if we can do it cheaper, then we need to. So he came in with regards to offshore energy. That's an example. That is another piece of what they're talking about within this project. They're saying, if we can find an economic, something that is less expensive when it comes to the environment, we have to do that. That's the question. Right. Well, again, and the environmental impacts is really, the question, right? I know we've got questions about that and what we're going to do, but I'm telling you this as an example, right? There are a ton of different orders. Now, of course, Biden's executive order 13990 revoked all of those previous orders. So with the environment protection orders, the executive orders from Trump, just as an example, the clean water executive orders that President Biden had ever put into place, right, to protect clean waters, though that executive order was revoked. Okay, the Endangered Species Act, the Clean Air Act, the pretty much any of the environmental protection agencies pieces that hadn't been overhauled by the U.S. Supreme Court had already been basically stifled from the language of these executive orders. Now, I'm not saying every single executive order by Trump was bad. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that these orders coincide with the premise of the environmental piece of this manifesto for Project 2029. So that's what the point is here. What I'm saying is it's already been done. Okay, I want everyone to take a moment and think back to 2016, okay? Think back to all of those executive orders that came through. And Trump did a record number of executive orders. I've done a post on it already. He had put through 220 executive orders in 4 years. Just to give you an idea, 220 in 4 years. In 8 years, Obama did 277 in 8 years, right? So keep that in mind. The number of executive orders came out because of this exact thing, because of a Project 2025 that was called something different. But he went forward and stated, we're going to do that. So if you're wondering what the content is, let me take you through the first few pages. All right, let's talk about what they've got for their agenda a little bit. Now, the first thing, if you want to follow along at home, because I don't have the documents out tonight, we've got it's Roman numeral page 4, all right? And at the top of it, it's Mandate for Leadership, the Conservative Promise. Oh, thank you, Lisa. Appreciate that. So, hello, Biani. Welcome. Always good to see you. Pillar 1. This volume puts in one place a consensus view of how major federal agencies must be governed. Where disagreement exists, brackets out the differences for the next president to choose a path. All right? So, pillar number 1, this is where all of Trump's executive orders when it came to federal employees would fall under this pillar. Some of his executive orders changed the Section F plan, so the pay rate for federal employees changed a merit-based system in order to terminate a federal employee. Those are some examples of what they are talking about under Pillar 1 in Project 2025. those are also exactly the executive orders that Trump had put into place. All right. Now, I always like to give you receipts. So let me just give you the exact numbers in case you're wondering what the numbers are for the executive orders. All right. I've got so many listed here. Executive orders from President Trump regarding Pillar 1 for 2025 project. His executive order 1383-7, 1383-6, 1383-9, 1395-7. Now I've done a post with all of these numbers on it so you can look them up yourselves. These orders were all passed, executive orders, May 25th of 2018. And they had to do with civil service, federal employees. That's what this was all about, all right? So when we're talking about Pillar 1, we're talking about these kinds of orders that were passed by President Trump at the time, okay? So that's Pillar 1. Oh, thank you. Oh, you're so sweet. Now, those executive orders, by the way, were all revoked. A lot of these were revoked actually within the first 2 days of President Biden's presidency, but this one was revoked by Executive Order 14003, which was protecting the federal workforce. So that order came in and revoked the prior ones. But if you're looking in the manifesto of Project 2025, Roman numeral page 14, Pillar 1, you're going to look to those executive orders. So these things have already happened as examples, okay? Next, we have Pillar 2, a personnel database that allows candidates to build their own professional profiles and our coalition members to review and voice their recommendations. These recommendations will then be collated and shared with the president-elect's team, greatly streamlining the appointment process. All right, so this is the database, all right? The database is Pillar 2. They're trying to put together a group of people who are acceptable to work in the White House as, you know, chief of staff, as an AG, whatever it is, where the president would appoint someone, including the president, would be part of this database. So rather than going through the normal process of choosing different people to come in and have different positions in the government, they would have a pre-approved database that their organization, thank you, Crypto, their organization had approved of, right? So that's the key. That's the key, is this database that they're creating. Now, I don't see anything wrong with creating this database other than to say, if you get a whole bunch of people pre-approved by a particular group, that's a lot of power, right? For one entity to have. Hello, Jilly Bean. Good to see you. Yes, there is a Wikipedia page, but honestly, the best information, if you really want the accurate information on what it actually says, is to look to the manifesto, which is kind of why I'm skipping through it tonight. I'm not showing the actual the actual language, but explaining it to everyone. All right. Everybody doing okay? Hi, Muriel. Good to see you. Hi. Yes, hello, everybody. Hi, Greg. All right. So we've got 2 pillars. Let's review. Did Hawk show up? No, he's not here. Let me know if Hawk comes in, everybody, okay? Let me know. Oh, hello, Starfish. Good to see you. Hawk, yes, there's another Hawk. There's another Hawk that may or may not join tonight. We'll see. Thank you for that. That's so sweet. I don't understand how people keep missing. She's just reading. Yes, I'm just Hawk. You're so funny. I appreciate you too, Hawk. You're the other Hawk, but I appreciate you. That's so funny. Yes, so I'm looking at the manifesto again. All right, so this is that 2025 Project 2025. Oh, thank you. And we're going through the different pieces here already. Yes, please do be respectful and polite. I run a pretty tight ship here. I don't mind different ideologies, but I do ask everyone to be respectful about it. Right, right. All right, so let's review. Pillar 1, federal employees. That had already been put into place before. All right, so this isn't anything new. Pillar 2, creating a database for people to be chosen into the executive branch. That's pillar number 2. All right, so will there be a quiz later? No, no quiz, I promise. Oh, that's so funny. All right, pillar 3 is the Presidential Administration Academy. All right, an online educational system taught by experts from our coalition, meaning Project 2025. Right, let me read it again. You got it. Pillar 3 is the Presidential Administration Academy, an online educational system taught by experts from our coalition. For the newcomer, this will explain how the government functions and how to function in government. For the experienced, we will host in-person seminars with advanced training and set the bar for what's expected of senior leadership. Yeah, Mads, yeah. I'm in shock. Right. A Presidential Administration Academy. Oh, thank you, Alan. Thank you. Right. So this organization, this Project 2025, with all of these different extremely conservative groups, which I think is a fair assessment, would be hosting and training anyone going into the executive branch as appointees. Okay, so they would be trained in what the proper way is for things to be handled at the executive branch. Why on earth? Yeah, because if you can get everybody thinking the same way, right, then your chances of your own success for your own manifesto are pretty high. Right. Who's supporting this project and using this project? Great question. There is a group on their advisory board, along with the people that actually have written it. Let me just list a few names. We have Darren Bakst, Bakst, Deputy Director, Center for Energy and Environment, Senior Fellow at the Competitive Enterprise Institute, Jonathan Berry, Lindsay Burke, David Burton, Adam Kandub, a professor of law at Michigan State, Dustin Carmack, a research fellow for cybersecurity, Brendan Carr, 20 years of private sector and public sector expertise, Benjamin Carson. Benjamin Carson, anyone know that name? Ben Carson? Anyone? Any takers? No? We've got Ken Cuccinelli, served as acting director of U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services in 2019. Rick Dearborn, deputy chief of staff for President Donald Trump. Veronique de Ruggie is the George Gibbs Chair at Political Economy and Senior Research Fellow at George Mason University. Donald Devine, a senior scholar at Fund for American Studies in Washington, D.C. He was President Ronald Reagan's first-term Office of Personnel Management Director. Diana Ferkgach-Roth, an Oxford-educated economist. Thank you. Thomas Gilman served as an Assistant Secretary of Commerce for Administration and Chief Financial Officer of the U.S. Department of Commerce in the Trump administration. Mandy Ganesgara of Oxford, Mississippi. Jean Hamilton, Vice President General Counsel of the America First Legal Foundation. Jennifer Hazelton worked as a senior strategic consultant for the Department of Defense in industrial-based policy. So that's an example of a few of the people that helped to write this manifesto out. Also, I did do a prior post on the advisory board. No, this isn't legal advice whatsoever. I'm just talking about Project 2025. Yes, all the .orgs, all of those. I did a series of posts before I came on tonight explaining everything that I'm going through tonight, just so everyone's got it. Yeah, he's got an expensive desk, I would imagine. Right, so did Ben Carson get the furniture yet? Good question. Good question. Yeah. All right. Kitty, yeah, we're talking about Project 2025, which is a proposed manifesto from a group of people who have a way that they would like to see the government run. So we're just going through what some of their ideologies are and how they've been used in the past. Are all the Supreme Court justices in on 2025? Nouveau, that's an excellent question. There's no research, there's no information showing any of them being a part of it directly. So there's no information on that at this point. You bet. Great question, Kitty. That's a great question. I've read this and it's terrifying. Right. But again, the key thing is that it was terrifying in 2016 when it was being implemented. At this point, it's no longer being implemented. They're proposing it. Can this be stopped by a court from going too far? No. The only thing that would be stopped would be any of the proposals requiring any kind of training. So this like academy, if any of the people were required to do that or they would lose their job, that's possible to kind of appeal that, especially with such a strong religious piece to it. Wouldn't they appeal to the Supreme Court if they did? Yes, they would. And although the legitimacy of the Supreme Court, I understand, but when it comes to basic fundamental principles, those are still there. How will project advisors gain the contract to do this training? That's the other thing here. All of this, before I get to Pillar 4, all of this would have to be approved by whomever comes in as president. So what I want you to think about too, as we're kind of talking about these different things, is whoever is elected president would have to agree to look at this database of people. So he or she would be saying, I've got my own people in mind that I want to put into the executive branch. And all of those candidates, they'd have to put aside. And that president, whoever came in, would choose from this group's database. Now think about the implication of that, because in order for this to work, you need a puppet. You have to have a puppet as president in order for that puppet to do whatever Project 2025 is proposing. That's what is required. All of the candidates who are running for president, can you think of any candidate who would be elected, hello Tara, who would be elected and then sat down, taken to the side by Project 2025 and told, this is how you're going to run your White House? Can you imagine who would do that? I think that's something that is being overlooked here. So let's just say that Ron DeSantis won. Let's just say that hypothetically. So Ron DeSantis wins the election, hypothetically. He sits down, Project 2025 comes in and says to him, this is what all of your people are supposed to do. Here are the people that you need to choose. Here's the training all of the people that we've chosen for you have to go through. And you have to agree to our structure. Do you think Ron DeSantis would agree with that? That's the question. Let's talk about another candidate. Let's pick another candidate. You think he would? You think Ron DeSantis would have some group come in and make the choices for his White House? If you pay him, Scott, okay? Yes, okay? Yes? Who else has a conversation? Well, yeah, we got to talk about it, right? We got to talk about it. What about Mike Pence? What if Mike Pence gets elected to office and he's sitting in the Oval Office with his own agenda for what he wants to have happen as president? These people come in and they say, you need to choose these people that we've chosen for you, go through our training, do everything we tell them to do. Would Mike Pence agree to that? Pence, probably not. Chris Christie? Right. Right. Pence would. Okay. No, that's the question. Because in order for this to work, the president has to agree to it. So this is what it comes down to. You've got to have a candidate willing to toss aside, move aside the people that they want to have being around them in their cabinet, their own executive orders that they want to do, all of the training they want for their own people, and they have to say, you guys are in charge of doing all of that. I'm just thinking, like, ego-wise, who gets elected to the presidency would allow for another entity to completely take over the job of presidency? That's my question. That's my question. That's the key. Now, there are a lot of religious people. I get it. But that's really the ultimate question. So one of the things that we'll be looking for, all of us will be looking for in these candidates, will be this question. If Project 2025 comes to you and says, this is who we want as Attorney General, would you say yes, or would you choose your own Attorney General? That's the question. So Ron DeSantis, we would say, if we said, we want you to pick this person for your Department of Commerce or for your Secretary of whatever, Secretary of State, we want to choose them. You have to go with whom we choose. Would he say yes? Those are the questions that you have to ask. Right. Does 2025 affect the 2-term limit? No, it does not. That can only be changed by a constitutional amendment. We need to keep personal religious beliefs out of government. Correct. And that's a reason why the Supreme Court would get involved with several pieces of this, because if anything involves religious training when it comes to the federal level, we're going to have problems. I'm not sure this is a full dictatorship, because typically when we are looking at a dictatorship, we have a dictator who's in charge, right? Think of the most classic example. I won't say the name of the country, but if you think of the most classic example, there's one man in charge, right? One man in charge of everything. Project 2025 is this particular group of people. They are in charge of everything. And the person that would be the president would be speaking for them. So the president would be working for Project 2025. That's what this project is about. They would be running the country by telling the president what to do. Could Congress do anything to stop an executive order? No. Executive orders get challenged in court and they can get overturned. There were several executive orders. Probably the most famous, or one of the most famous, was an executive order regarding the travel bans that occurred. So we did have some of those issues. All of those can be like oligarchs, right? Oh no, I do not support it whatsoever. I think it is a complete, in complete opposition to the Constitution. I believe it's unconstitutional. Right. How would this work with the readiness of the military? Because not everyone is Christian in the military. I think, Ava, we're already seeing what's happening when certain people disagree with policies and how they're willing to take it out on our military. We're seeing that right now in Congress. Who put Project 2025 into action? It came out of the Heritage Foundation, right? So who's in charge of the Heritage Foundation? Right? They don't want a military anymore. I think they're fine with the military as long as they can control it. So who chooses the different candidates for the military? We've already had some of those issues going on right now. Right. So this question of a dictatorship, again, the issue here, the question to ask is, who would pick the people in the executive branch, their training, the executive orders the president's supposed to go forward and sign? The power of the president would be in this group of people. that have written and put together this Project 2025. That's what it is. Yes, there are some very interesting pieces out there, and a lot of people doing some great pieces and great work on this. And, I think it's something that's been in the works for a long time. And Gretchen, I know it feels that way, but here's the deal. Again, think about it. Which candidate, who would be put into the White House, elected in after a hard-fought battle, and then told, we are now in charge of your presidency? Which person would be okay with that? Yes, Moms of Liberty is on the advisory board. Long time, and they found their person. Yes, CJ, they did in 2016. They did find their person. The Supreme Court is compromised. How can we impeach them? The impeachment of the Supreme Court is the same process as the impeachment of a president. Articles of impeachment are filed in the House, a trial is done in the Senate, and then there's a conviction or not a conviction. And it is possible to do that, absolutely. And we do have an ethics complaint now on file for Justice Alito. Just so you know. Right. Yeah, they are. There's a lot of interesting groups that are on this advisory board. Right, Gretchen. Yeah, I know. They want to take away checks and balances. Right. I think the biggest piece, because Congress, it still has its authority. The Supreme Court still has its authority. I know your faith and your trust in the Supreme Court shaken. I understand completely. Believe me, I do. But the only effect that Project 2025 would have would be on the executive branch. Over the years, we've had a lot of different presidents who have been pushed back by Congress because Congress will pass an act that makes their executive order illegal, by the Supreme Court that said your executive order is illegal. So those checks are still in place. They're still there. All of those checks are. But what they're proposing is that they are the ones that know best for the executive branch, and then they have to find the person to listen to them. It starts there. But where will it go from there? Scary. It's already, we've already kind of seen, in my view, what happens. It started with the presidency in 2016. Then it moved into the Supreme Court, right? Then it moved into Congress. Then it moved into state houses. So we're already seeing the effect. It did. You're right, CJ. Yeah. They want to chip away at democracy. Yeah, I think democracy is not that easy to get rid of. It is so heavily ingrained into our world that they can't break it apart. All they can do is try to influence one piece at a time. And they, of course, have to find a person who's willing to do this. That's the key. We have to hold the people who are running accountable, and we have to ask them, are you going to listen to Project 2025, or are you going to make your own choices? That's the thing. Didn't it also cover education? It did, Frank. Now, the key to the education piece of it, and I think I've already kind of touched on this a little bit. If you want to know how they want to change the education process, there is an executive order that was passed, sent out by Trump, and the executive order was called the President's Advisory Commission. So this is the Advisory of 1776 Commission. They organized a group to get together to research and put into place policies and plans for how to take away the radicalized view of U.S. history. That started in the White House during Trump's presidency. So this education issue, all of these education pieces were already proposed. 1776 Commission to rework our education system regarding U.S. history. Now, if it's critical race theory, I don't know anything about that. I don't know. I do not go down that particular role. That's that road. That's not an area I specialize in. But what this commission was in charge of was stating that school board member, okay, Frank, you know then what they are trying to do, what that commission to the president was trying to do was create this kind of schedule or set of like a path forward in order to de-radicalize our actual history. Yeah, the history of the United States. Right, now that executive order was revoked by an executive order by Biden, Executive Order 1398-5. It was revoked. But that is exactly what they want. That's part of what the manifesto is about, is changing this way of looking at U.S. history so that it's not, oh, thank you, so that it's not presented in a way that puts a negative perspective on issues they don't want to have a negative perspective on. Right. Check out the commission. Check out what that commission was all about. They want to keep telling the winner's version of American history. I agree, Stephen. I agree. And I think they want the version of history that works best with their own continuation of how they wish to educate everyone. It should be forgotten and done again. I don't think we can forget any of our history. And I think every day we do it again. So, yeah, the truth. I mean, we can push things around as much as we want, but it just is what it is. And, it just kind of is. So what about religion? Religion is one of the core fundamental beliefs. So they're creating all of these different policies and executive orders with the purpose of it being a family-centered, faith-based kind of conservative ideology. So the conservative road has to do with these key pieces. Yes, separation of church and state, they can't do away with that. I mean, the power here is pretty limited by how far they can take things. All who choose right, and those who choose not to. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the First Amendment right there. Why not tell the true history? I think because it gives a negative connotation to what their hopes are in going forward with their manifesto. I think it makes it harder for them. They will start attacking the rights of non-Christians. Oh, absolutely. And they already have. I mean, they really already have at this point. They stack SCOTUS anymore. They can do it. It's, yeah, I don't know. It's, yeah, I mean, I don't know how much more stacking it could be. The court isn't as stacked as it was actually under the Rehnquist court. Let's take a moment, all right? Let's have a moment of history and note that the sheer number of conservatives on the court is not as many as it was under Rehnquist. So keep that in mind too, just as a side note. If they extend the court, Congress would have to extend the court. Congress would have to put more judges on. And that came from the Judiciary Act of 1784, I think it was 84. Anyway, there was a congressional act in the 1700s that set Congress to have the power to set the size of the court. So it's up to Congress right now. Does this whole manifesto make you nervous for the future of how the country will be ran? No, I'm not nervous at all. No, because we already been through this and it didn't work. I mean, it didn't work. We had days, we had times, when I was looking at the law and I was saying, what's happening here? And it was nerve-wracking, but it didn't work. The courts kept things in check. The timing ran out on things. Injunctions were put into place. And people at the local levels kind of figured out what they needed to do to take care of things. So for the people who didn't want these things to happen as they were happening, took care of it. And I believe that that'll happen again if this ever comes into play again. I truly do. Yeah, no, I'm not worried. and I don't think I'm positive. I think it's just we've seen this already. And part of what I like to do when I look at the Constitution and I look to how the law has been written and what we've done over the centuries, the 2 centuries, I look at the past, and when you look back and you look at how this has been done before, we always do things better the next time around. We mess things up in this country, we screw things up, but then we fix it. So that's one of the pieces that is just absolutely. Oh, am I Jewish? No, I'm not. I'm not. There's anything wrong with that. I don't have one view or another on religion. I keep that hush hush. No, it's a compass. It's a compass. So yeah, I mean, again, we went through 2016 to 2020. We saw what happened. We saw all the lawsuits that were filed. We saw the executive orders that failed. We saw all of that and made it out the other side. So I have no doubt that we'll do it better next time. What happened when it came to the overturning of Roe v. Wade? Ever wonder why? Here's the deal. Here's the deal with Dobbs. All right, let me just clear it up right now for you real quick as a side note. Right, so Roe v. Wade was always on shaky ground from day one. Casey came in the 90s and took away 2 of the 4 legs of the Roe case, right? So it was wobbly. Now, when it went up to the U.S. Supreme Court, the one judge that dissented on the original Casey case, meaning he had felt that Casey should have been more restrictive, was Judge Alito before he became a Supreme Court justice. So, of course, when he hears the case 20 years later, he's going to rule the way that he felt it should have originally been held. So it happened. Justice Sotomayor came in her dissent and said, clearly, by doing this, you're going to completely delegitimize the Supreme Court. And that's what happened. So that's it. And when they say, you know, we're just giving power back to the states, that's not true. The states always had the power. The power was set out in the Casey case. They always had the power. The only thing they did was eliminate the right. So the right was eliminated. That's what had happened in the Dobbs case. Whether you agree or disagree, that's just the law. That's just how the law worked. Was the last little piece that made it illegal was put into place. So that's it. It's never about putting it back to the states. They already had all the jurisdiction. So that was it. That was it with Dobbs. But yes, I think it can be lots of different ways of looking at it, but I see it as a compass, in my opinion. That's how I view it. But yeah, so that's my 2 piece. That's my 2 bits, my 2 pence for my British watchers. Yes, it was really the overruling of Casey ultimately, and Alito had already had his say in it back when he was a circuit judge, so he just kind of had his hands in it now. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, it was that galvanized the fundamental piece of the right was gone. And that was removed clearly by the language in Dobbs, where they said it's not a fundamental right, as was set out in Roe and Casey. So that's really it. But it's a lot. I think that case will forever be one of the weakest links. And I think it'll come back later it'll come back, much like Dred Scott came back, much like Plessy v. Ferguson came back. I think it'll be one of those cases historically. Did they ever find out who leaked it? Not that I know of. But I haven't paid attention. I haven't paid that close of attention. I wish you would have been my professor. Oh, that's so sweet. That's so sweet of you to say. I appreciate that. All right. So, yes, McConnell, that was a mess. The process isn't right. That process was not correct. That was not how things are supposed to be done. But, here we are. It could have been. All right, so I'm trying to stay focused, but it's hard. We've got pillar 1, pillar 2, pillar 3. Let's talk about the last pillar, pillar 4, the playbook. We are forming agency teams and drafting transition plans to move out upon the president's utterance of "So help me God." All right, that's the fourth pillar set out in the manifesto. So they're basically saying they're going to hit the ground running once they have their person in place that they need. So the last one really is an eye-opener. Do you support the right for a man to abandon his... I support the law. I'm about the law. So that's what I support. The name of the manifesto is Project 2025. Now, a manifesto, again, is just a political proposal for changes to government, and that's what it is. So, I mean, what about states trying to prevent travel for pregnant women seeking right? So that's a mess right now, and it'll have to get up to the U.S. Supreme Court. I'm not sure how they're going to justify that because there is this travel issue going on. Like, you can't prevent people. That really, it's taking it down a road. I think their belief that the Supreme Court would support something like that is misplaced, honestly. And perhaps it's because I have actually listened to so many oral arguments where this U.S. Supreme Court has asked questions and made comments. I've listened to almost all of them over the last couple of years, and you can hear their ideologies when they're asking questions. And so I think there's a misplacement there. Oh, Gretchen, yes. Yeah, of course. I'm definitely, we'll keep an eye on everything and take a look at it. Women are afraid to leave Florida. Yeah, in a lot of states. I think it's frustrating, but we're kind of in that persecution stage of bad legislation. So until the legislation, which most of the legislation is illegal, which the courts are smacking it down, but until it gets to that level, it's kind of like, what do we do in the interim while we're waiting for the legal system, which is so slow, to catch up to the illegalities of the laws? What rights are feminists fighting for what they do not already have compared to their male partner? Yeah, I mean, I don't know, rights that women don't have compared to their male partner. I mean, I don't have enough time to go into that. In Texas, you can now arrest women on state roads who police think are traveling. Right. And, things are a little bit different in Texas. They do a lot of kind of stuff down there that is not appropriate, and they get called out, but it takes a long time. And it's awful. It's awful in the interim. Manifesto is gaining ground. Should we be concerned? No, I don't think so. I think it's just, becoming more public. And I think the problem and where we were at in 2016 is that something very similar to this was out, but it wasn't in the light. If you bring it out and show it and talk about it, that's how you deal with it. But by keeping it to the side and keeping it hidden, and people don't know about it, then they don't have a way to combat it. So I think it's great. I think everyone should be talking about it. I think we should talk about the structure of the executive branch and who's in charge of the president when the president gets elected. I think it's very important. Absolutely, I do. Absolutely. The states don't own you, or you think they control what you do in another state. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, I think a lot of people don't realize how unconstitutional or illegal some of these laws are, and they're scared. And it makes sense. If you're not trained in the legal field, you would be afraid. For me, honestly, because of my knowledge, I wouldn't have any problem, going and traveling around doing whatever. I wouldn't, because I know what my rights are. I know that there wouldn't be a problem, and I'd be able to fight that. But I'm trained. I mean, I have a lot of student debt to back up my ability to move around how I want to move around. But it's not true for everyone. And so that fear makes sense. I can understand it. But it does show the route they want to take. Yes, and it's a route that they've been after for a long time and had some success in 2016, but then were smacked down in 2020. That's the key. was that, the country said, we don't want this, and voted. And so now they're like, well, let's try it again. Let's see if we can do it again. And, it's really going to be up to the people to decide, is this what you want or not? So that's really the question. Have you seen the Turn Signal app where you can call a lawyer if you get pulled over? I did see an advertisement for that. I've not researched it though. I think it's a very interesting idea. I think it's very interesting. Can you recap the Confederate connection to Project 2025? Do you mean the Articles of Confederation? Because those are different than the actual Confederacy from the Civil War time. So you'll have to be a bit more clear. If you're talking about the Confederate Constitution, would not be in agreement with Project 2025 at all, actually. So, because they did write another constitution when they split from the Union. Yes. Okay. So the original Articles of Confederation, right. So in the original Articles of Confederation, as a quick side note, they set out a basic structure regarding the militia, regarding Congress, which was weak and had no authority. Basically, the Articles of Confederation just said all the states are independent. There's a League of Friendship. Canada can join if they're feeling up to it. That's fine. Yay, Canada. But there was really no power and authority in a federal government. It was all up to the states. Very similar to what they're proposing here. So the executive branch didn't have any teeth, Congress didn't have any teeth, and it was useless. That's why we had to have the Constitution written. So that's really the things that are the most similar when it comes to this manifesto versus the Articles of Confederation. So that's where the similarities are, but that's about it. That's about it when it comes to the Articles of Confederation. Yeah, no, the articles were like, hey, Canada, you want to come? And Canada's looking down and they're like, we don't want to be involved in that. Which I thought was fascinating in my humble opinion. Can go out of the country for abortion. Yeah, but you got to keep in mind too, right? I mean, how long does it take for you in a country this size? I mean, it's how do you get out of the country? Especially if you're in the middle somewhere. That's a long drive. That's a long drive to get out of the country. Oh, you're welcome, Mama Llama. Good to see you. Polarization is making it useless. You mean, I don't know. Polarization of politics is making the manifesto useless? Is that what you mean? You don't need to leave America to get a legal abortion. Snappy Squid, that's the thing. There are so many sanctuary states. There are so many places now that are helpful. I mean, it's almost like the Underground Railroad to some degree, and I don't use that term or that historical reference lightly. I really, truly do not. But there are a lot of things in place to kind of help with that. Yes. Yeah. Our country, our government. Yeah, that's exactly it. You have to decide. You have to make the choice. A lot of states where you can go camping. Right. Yeah, exactly. And it's the same for a lot of our trans rights as well. We have a lot of issue. Rich women versus poor women. Absolutely, that's an issue. Birth network for decades. That's a good point, isn't it? It's kind of been, the structure has been there. The structure. We had some things in place already. Do you think it's plausible they try to challenge Griswold in court? I don't think Griswold at this point, especially with what happened with Dobbs, I think the fact that they pushed Dobbs away, or they pushed Griswold out of the discussion with Dobbs, shows how powerful the Griswold case is, in my opinion. They had to go through the other case, the case I've forgotten about, the Ninth Amendment assisted unaliving case, the name of which, again, I've forgotten. I'm sorry. It's got an interesting set of letters. But that's the case they used for their analysis. They used it under Ninth Amendment analysis. So, and again, I think that's because Griswold is so powerful. Right. Griswold, yes, sorry. Griswold is one of the first original cases establishing the right to privacy. The Griswold case was in Connecticut. There was a statute that said that you cannot get access to information about contraception. So to women, the founder of Planned Parenthood and an attorney, sued the state in Griswold, saying, "We would like to provide information on contraception to women." And Connecticut said you can't, and arrested them. Now, they appealed all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said in the Griswold case that, you have a right to be able to gain knowledge. That's a right that you have. And so this kind of knowledge is essential. That was the first establishment of this personal privacy right that we were talking about. Yeah. So, right. They get rid of medical privacy. People are going to find out. Right, CJ, it's true. And it would take a lot to truly get rid of that. Did Thomas mention it in his statement with Dobbs? Yeah, Thomas did. But he also, he was talking also about, he said several things. He's even wanted to go back against Tinker, and he's wanted to do the marriage case as well. The name escapes me. Sorry, I have so many names in my head. He just seems to kind of toss out these little cases like, oh, we should overrule New York Times versus Sullivan, like in his dissents. Like, what are you doing, Thomas? What are you doing? That's madness. Yeah. For some reason, I've forgotten the name. Does anyone remember the name? I'm sorry. The marriage case. I have totally forgotten. Loving versus Virginia, right? That was one of the earliest ones. Hold on, let me just look it up here real quick. It's gonna drive me completely crazy if I can't remember it. Obergefell, thanks VC. Oh my gosh, you're always got my back. I appreciate it. The Obergefell case. Right, exactly. Thank you. Yes. Oh, I'm so glad that you all know the name. Oh, that's wonderful. We love that. Yeah, I mean, your brain's amazing. Oh, well, I have a lot of cases in there. Sometimes I get them mixed up a little bit, but yes, I have been. Actually, I've got this one more case in my head that if I don't get it out, I'm going to go crazy. Glucksberg. Glucksberg was the case, right? So Glucksberg was the case they did the analysis for in the Dobbs case instead of the Griswold case. Shoo, that was a close one. Huh. I was worried. I had concerns. Yes, I will have this, Tony, up on my Tube of You, on my Tube of You channel for sure. So, right. There's a lot. There's just a lot of, I think it's easy to just pick a group of people and say, this is a bad group of people, as opposed to taking the time to choose people. And so I think that's why people go in and just say one party is bad or another party is bad, because it's easier than actually listing them out. What are unenumerated rights as pertain to Dobbs? Well, it's not necessarily what they are, it's what it isn't, and that is the right to an abortion. That is not. So, unfortunately. All right, so let me take you through a couple more things when it comes to this. Oh, thank you. When it comes to the 2025 manifesto. I wanted to go through just the very first paragraph, again, to give you some idea of what we're talking about when we're talking about what their purpose is and why they're doing this project. So 44 years ago, all right, so this has been in the works. 44 years ago, the United States and the conservative movement were in dire straits. Both had been betrayed by the Washington establishment and were uncertain whom to trust. Both were internally splintered and strategically adrift. Worse still, at that moment of acute vulnerability and division, we found ourselves besieged by existential adversaries, foreign and domestic. The late 1970s were by any measure a historic low point for America and the political coalition dedicated to preserving its unique legacy of human flourishing and freedom. Right. That's the very first paragraph written by Kevin Roberts. All right here. I know it's backwards. Kevin Roberts, A Promise to America. So we're going all the way back This Project 2025 is going all the way back to the policies set out in the 1970s with regards to our government and how things were going down. So, right, it's a lot. It's a lot. Now, let me flip through again, and he goes on for a long time. The Heritage Foundation is proud to have played a small but pivotal role in the story. It was in early 1979, amid stagflation, gas lines, and the Red Army's invasion of Afghanistan, the nadir of Jimmy Carter's days of malaise, that Heritage launched the Mandate for Leadership Project. Right on the cusp, exactly, on the cusp of Reagan. So yeah, in the 70s, we had a lot of stuff going on. The 60s and 70s were a wild time. And, you know, that's when we had so many assassinations. We had equal rights changing. We had the civil rights movement. And right on the verge of Ronald Reagan's 80s, exactly. So there was a lot going on. Vietnam, of course, right? 1974. So disco was also big. That was huge. Yeah. But that was the beginning of the end. And that was the beginning of the Heritage Foundation and this project. So Nixon, exactly. So if you think about it, then this project, this set of ideologies has been going since that period of time, and it continues to go. But it's taken them this long to find someone willing to go forward with what they wanted until 2016. Interesting, isn't it? Interesting. Interesting thoughts. All right, so let me take you through just, again, the manifesto is just enormous, so I'm not going to take you through all of that, but we do have a couple pieces here of what some of the other goals are. So we've kind of talked about the pillars, but let me take you through a little bit more here. Again, the very beginning of this is set out to the different people that were contributors that were involved in this. So let's go through some of the sections just so I can give you some more insight here. First, we've got the first section, taking the reins of government. And under that, we have first, the White House office, what it means, what it should be doing, what kind of control it should have. Number two, executive office of the President of the United States. So what is it that the president is supposed to be doing and the kind of control the president should have? Three, central personnel agencies managing the bureaucracy. That's another really big piece. If you hear anyone if you hear anyone going on and on about the bureaucracy and how it's bad, a lot of that language is coming from this project. So keep that in mind. Now, section 2, let's talk about the common defense. I think it's worth the time it takes to go through this. They're setting out, these are all of the different pieces that have been set out in the manifesto. The Department of Defense, what it should be doing. Also restructuring the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of State, the intelligence community, media agencies. So they're trying to go in and change U.S. Agency for Global Media, right? Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Yes, it does. It does. It is a bit similar. Next, Agency for International Development. Now, each one of these has its own separate chapter where they're setting out how they want to restructure it. Section 3, these are the different departments that they want to change, the federal departments. The General Welfare. 1, restructuring Department of Agriculture, Department of Education, Department of Energy and related commissions, Environmental Protection Agency, which would be pretty much all but eliminated. We kind of already have seen that before with some of the executive orders in 2016. Department of Health and Human Services, Department of Housing and Urban Development. This piece was written by Ben Carson. So this chapter of the manifesto was written by him. The Department of the Interior, the Department of Justice would be restructured. the Department of Labor and related agencies. So all of those collective bargaining things that we already had. What page am I on? I'm on, there's no page number. I'm in the table of contents. Thank you. I'm in the table of contents for section 3. Right, so table of contents, section 3. Department of Justice, Department of Labor, again, and as I was saying before, he had put in executive orders regarding collective bargaining and those kinds of things. This document, if you have any interest in labor whatsoever, it's fascinating. The kind of anti-labor statements that are in here are huge. I mean, it's been a problem. And, say what you will about unions one way or another, it's definitely a problem in this manifesto. So getting rid of unions is on the list. So yikes. Department of Transportation, Department of Veterans Affairs. So that's section 3. Now we go into section 4, the economy. Going through the Department of Commerce and restructuring, Department of the Treasury restructuring, an import-export bank. So it says here the Export-Import Bank should be abolished. The case for the Export-Import Bank. So we've got 2 pieces for that. Restructuring the Federal Reserve, the Small Business Administration, and trade. The case for fair trade and the case for free trade. Right. Independent regulatory agencies. This is section 5. So the last piece. Yeah, there's only 5 sections. I was like, is there one more? No. Okay. Financial regulatory agencies. So Securities and Exchange Commission and related agencies. Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. This is restructuring all of these and putting their own people in charge of each of these departments. That's what they're talking about. And then training their people with their own trainers, their own teachers. The Federal Communications Commission. Can you imagine what changes would be done to the FCC? The Federal Election Commission. So restructuring the money too. You got it. Yeah. What could possibly happen if they change the Federal Election Commission? That's a good question. And then lastly, the Federal Trade Commission. So these are the restructuring boundaries that they want to put into place, the different agencies that they're looking into, again, putting their own people in charge along with training those people as well. Now, something interesting that I did find was, if anyone remembers, on the very last day of Trump's presidency, he had signed an executive order that did away with all of the ethics requirements for federal employees. No explanation was given whatsoever. So he had come in and put in this ethics thing when it came to his federal people, but then on the last day, did away with it. Now, a lot of those people then turned the very next day and went out into the world of lobbying. So if you're looking at some of those lobbyists that are in DC, those were the same people that were working for his administration. Yeah. And I think it's worth asking this question to a lot of people. In 2016, again, one of the biggest platforms that he had was to kind of drain the swamp or to get rid of lobbyists. And now his own people are in the world of lobbying. So yeah, it's interesting. Similar issues in the UK. I think so. I think it's a good idea. Don't understand this, their Bill of Rights. Yeah. I mean, this wasn't the intent. The founding fathers, when they wrote the Constitution out, when Madison sat down and took his quill out and wrote down what he wanted, there was this balance of power and these checks and balances. That was so important. And so to try to make one branch more powerful than other branches, yeah, that was not the intent behind the Constitution for this at all. So, yeah, he did. Money really is the best incentive. It's already happened. We didn't even see it. Yeah, exactly, Kathy. This had occurred in 2016. So we've been through it. And we made it out the other side and put things into place so that it wouldn't happen again. So it's good, I think, to keep that in mind too. And you can look at the case law, you can look at the decisions that were made on a lot of these executive orders, and you can see how the process went when we were dealing with it at the time. Yeah, they got huge jobs lobbying, made a lot of money from that. So I think that's worth pointing out to anyone who was like, let's kind of change things around. It's like, well, just so you know, those people that you're trying to get rid of were and are from his administration. I think that's important to know. Ricky, I agree. Is it bad? Is that controversial if I say that? I think also we should stop the church tax exemptions. Would that be bad for me to say? Ooh, I don't know. I don't want to be political, but yeah, I'm with you. I know. Is that bad? I don't know. It just seems like such a huge issue. A huge issue. Yes. Oh no, that's okay. That's okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I, I think there have just been so many problems with it. Either tax them or better enforce fines. Yeah, it's questionable. I think if you're going to put them in the role that they've been placed in with these last few U.S. Supreme Court cases, I think it's like they've really kind of moved to the next level, and a level that could be worth taxing, in my humble opinion. That's just my opinion. That's my opinion. Yes, so Scientology is a religion because we would define religions under the tax code. That's how it's defined. So, yeah, I don't know, Greg. There's a lot. There's a lot to it, but it depends on the church. Right. Well, and that's the thing, Daisy. It would be so tough because everyone would have to be treated equally. So I'm not sure even how he would enforce it, but I don't know. I'm not, I'm open to it. I guess I'm open to it. I'm open to the idea. Yes. Just start your church, Frank. First of all, write some science fiction books. All right. Do that first, then publish them. And then declare your books a religion. And then you're good to go. That's how you do it. That's how it's done. Do other countries tax the church? Oh, James. Oh, yes. There are all kinds of issues with that. I think it's one of those very long-standing questions for everyone. Only if they're preaching from the pulpit. Yeah, I think that's, I think it's a fair assessment of the situation. Is their tax exemption taken away? Do you think this will give them the legality to get into government? They're already in government, I guess is how I would say. That's why I think it's time. I think if we put them any further into government, they need to start paying some taxes. Interesting. Yes. Yeah, they are. Yeah. And that's okay. I mean, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that they're definitely there. Have you dropped the papers for it? Yes. Hope all is well. What's the secret to being a great lawyer? Making a lot of mistakes. That's the secret. You make a lot of mistakes without hurting people, but you make a lot of mistakes and then you figure out how to do it better. I think that's really the key to being a good lawyer. And to know a lot of other people make mistakes and that it's okay. You just learn. You learn and you move forward from it in our economy and supporting. Yeah, it's true. If it affects laws, isn't it a bad thing? Now that is a very good question. That's a good question. I'll have to think. That's a thinking question. I'll have to decide. Oh, I know. Accepting one can grow. Church should be involved in politics. Well, yep, they are. I think thank you. I think I've explained this before to anyone who asks, because I don't really talk about religion very much. Certainly don't talk about my own religion, but what I will say is that the very first rule book I ever read regarding laws was the Bible. So, I mean, it's a set of rules if you think about it. So it's fascinating, I can see the different points of view on it, but I have no particular stance on it. I can definitely see. No, I'm not Catholic. No, I'm not. Not that there's anything wrong with that, Personally, no, I'm not. I'm not. Isn't there a clause that's supposed to separate the church and state? In the First Amendment, yes. Yes, there is. We do have that in the Constitution. Yes, there's two clauses. No establishment and a separation. Digger documentary on Amazon. They're already in politics. Yeah, I haven't seen it. It's a lot. It's a lot for me. I have to really, it's like it's a little bit at a time when I take a look at those kinds of things. We'd not have to change the Constitution to better enforce the laws already. Yeah, exactly. That's really what it's about, VC, I think, is enforcing what we already have. We've got the structure in place. Your religion's just family based. Well, I don't ever talk about my own personal religion, so I will leave that there. It makes me wonder why they still use the Bible or religion to enforce. This is a great question, Kitty. If you look at a lot of religions, again, for me, where I was as a little girl reading it, was a Bible is what I had available to me. But a lot of religions, they have a set of rules, and you follow those rules or you have a punishment. And that's, in my opinion, that's a lot of what religion is, are rules that you need to follow, or, there's a punishment. So I think it's very interesting. How long is Project 2025? So the full manifesto is 900 pages, but it takes about 100 pages for them to get started. And then they go in, it's probably about 50 pages or so per chapter, but it doesn't really start to get going until about 25 pages in. So it's about that long. Mega churches are, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. Will there be suffering even if they fail? I think it's a vehicle for learning. I truly do. I think Project 2025 is an amazing educational resource to take a look at what a powerful group of people are trying to do when it comes to the power of the presidency. So I think it's a good learning tool, in my opinion. I do. I think it's fascinating to compare and contrast how the actual Constitution works. Do you have a link to it? Do you plan to read it? No, I'm not going to read it out. In fact, I was uncomfortable even showing it. So that's kind of why you get my face tonight, because I didn't want to actually go through it. But there is a link. You can go to Project 2025 and you can pull it up and just read it there. You've really made this. Oh, thanks, Frank. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think, I think it's so valuable to really take a look at what it is. And, maybe some people are fine with it. Maybe they're okay with that. Maybe this group is a group that they want to have to control the presidency. Maybe that's what they want, and that's okay. That's what we're about here. But then there are others of us that would prefer the Constitution to really rule, because that's what it's there for. It's frustrating, I think, for a lot of people, but it's a great learning tool. Well, thank you, Maggie. I really enjoy your lives. That's so kind of you to say. Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. Yes. And, I would say, too, the real key when voting, it's not just the president. It's not just the vice president. It's your local races. That's really the key to all of this. If you are worried and you are afraid, look at your local races. Your special elections, your county treasurer, your board of supervisors, all of those local races, city hall, city, city council, that's where you need to see who actually is running. Do you really agree with them and voting for those races? And for those states where you re-elect your judges, you should go for it and look them up and see what their voting record is, see how their opinions are and how they've written things. But it's the local races. That's where the change happens. It's at the local level. That's the difference. Are you posting tonight's live? Yes, I will. I will be posting it on my Tube of You. I will, absolutely. Yep, tonight. Absolutely. Yeah, it's those local races. It's so incredibly important. And I think we forgot about it. I certainly did for a period of time. Honestly, until the 2016 election, quite frankly, I was like, school board, what's that? But now I'm like, what are they doing? What is going on in my neighborhood? Because I need to take care of that. Oh, Deborah, yes, thanks for coming. Oh, I appreciate you so much. I'm so thankful for your time. Have a wonderful night. Wonderful night. Absolutely. But yes, I can't emphasize it enough. And those special elections, very important. Also incredibly important. School board, yes, Frank. School board, very important. What is being taught to your children and how the curriculum's being advocated, that's really where it all starts. Can you do an intake on the judge hearing on motion from Cheesebro and Powell? So I have not spent much time looking into that, but I haven't reviewed the hearing. It's on my to-do list, but I did see that the request for them to all be tried together had been denied. So I did see that, but that was about it. I'll have to look into it. School boards are where the yes, yeah, it's so important. It's so important. Yeah, Cheesebro. I think he was Lemonade. Wasn't Cheesebro's attorney Lemonade? Wasn't I think because her attorney was amazing, but Mr. Lemonade was the Cheesebro attorney. Yep, yep, that's what I thought. Yep. Hi, Suze. Good to see you. Georgia Judge was well spoken today. He seems to do a pretty good job. I've been pretty impressed so far with his experience. I was typing each to see that. Yes. Sorry. We're fighting against the really my kids are in the charter, so they're okay. Yeah, it's so important. I'm again, those local races that no one really pays attention to. I mean, that's what you need to pay attention to. It's so important. Yeah, they do. The cheese and lemonade, good combo. I agree. Right, demanding to speak with the grand jurors. I'm gonna have to take a look. I'll do a post on it. I'll do a post on my thoughts for sure. Yes, I will be uploading to my Tube of You channel for sure after this. I just kind of dived right in tonight, so I wanted to make sure I got all my information out there as easy as it could be. On depositions are just great. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. Yes, I've got more coming, so I've got to take a look. Oh, they're protesting our school board against, right. Well, that's where it's at. That's if you want to see that change happen, it's your neighborhood. That's where you start. That's how it has always been in this country. Off preparing for the hurricane. Oh, Suze, I know I'm worried. I'm worried for you. Take care. I hope everything is going to be all right for you. Can't post or text on YouTube. Any suggestions? Oh, that's weird. That's very odd, Julie. I'm getting all kinds of messages on my Tube of You. I get constant comments. So that's really weird. I'm not sure. I'll double check my comments setting. I'm still kind of working my way through how it all works. So, oh, sorry about that. Yes, Lisa, you take care as well. People have to support the schools and be involved. Absolutely, absolutely. You just have to be involved in it. That's how you can help yourself feel better about the situation also. I think that's really important. Yeah, I will absolutely check my settings for sure. That's on my list. I kind of go through and make sure that I've got everything as best as I can. Time to explain this all, very informative. Yes, you're welcome, Joyce. Hopefully it was. Again, the bottom line is with this project is that it was attempted in 2016 and we survived and we will survive again. We just have to be aware of it and keep talking about it and keep going through it and keep making decisions. Is this something that you want or not? And if it's not something that you want, make sure you tell people about it. Oh, absolutely, Joyce. No, we went through it. We made it through it. We're still cleaning it up, but I am not afraid. I will be honest, in 2016 to 2020, I was afraid. I was very afraid. Every day I woke up and I would see a new law and I was afraid, but no, not anymore. Not anymore. Oh, hello, nature. Hello. Yeah, no, we have uh, we have learned a hard fought lesson, and so I think we've come out the other side, and I think we're going to be all right. So I have lots of faith. I do. And just also, we've all learned, even in the legal community, we've learned how to do things better. So I think that'll be good. Why are the Dems not talking about 2025? I'm not sure. I think that's a good question. My question too was, do we have something similar to this? Is there something similar to this from the other parties, like the Libertarian Party or the Democratic Party? Do they have manifestos like this? Because if they do, we should talk about that too. I mean, I was looking, I couldn't find anything. I couldn't find anything close to this from any of the other parties that we have, any of them. So I wasn't sure if there was anything out there or not. Young people, yeah, we do. There's another one from the conservatives called Agenda 47. Oh, okay. Let me write that down. I gotta making a note of that one. Yikes. All right, 47. Okay, we'll see. I'm gonna have to get my lollipop out for that one. All right, hold on. I'm down 47. Yikes. That's a lollipop moment for me. Yikes. Oh. Yes, I agree. Got my really, you got your certificate. Hold on. And I done just after the election. Oh my goodness. Oh, so tough times. Is it Alex? Oh, beautiful name. I love that. I don't think this has been a normal thing for parties to do. I agree. I mean, I think we've definitely got some. We have other manifestos out there. I just haven't seen, the emotional support lolly. True story. I need to send some to Hawk. That man needs a bag of lollipops. Like I have a whole bag here. I need to just send them to him. He needs some. He needs some emotional support. Usually end up, true, Dilly Bean. True. Maybe that's why he didn't show tonight, because he didn't have any. I know. It's all right, though. It's all right. We'll catch him sometime. Good night, Greg. Always good to see you. Yeah, Alex, I can see why. I can absolutely understand. Sunday, we have the pups. Yes. Oh, love that. Hello, George. Hello. Oh, Frank, that's so nice of you to say. Well, I'm here. I will continue to be here for sure. Absolutely. No, it's okay. We'll get together at some point. Absolutely. We'll figure something out, something fun to do. This one might, he's had a lot. He's had a busy day. He's put like 50 TikToks up today. He's a busy man. You remember the Texas GOP's platform? Yes. Well, and you can kind of see now where it's come from, right? So you can see how those local races, your community, that's really the key to it. So, oh, thank you. Thank you. Yes, sometimes you just, you gotta just chuckle at it. So, well, everybody, I'm checking out the clock here, and we've finished a little bit early tonight, but I think I will go ahead and start to sign off so I can get this uploaded to my Tube of You channel, which you can check out. It's the same name as my TikTok here. So keep doing what you do. Appreciate it. Oh, thank you. Yes, Tara, always wonderful to see you. Frank, have an amazing night. Kitty, yes, absolutely. Good night, everybody. It's so much fun to see everyone, and I appreciate you all coming. I really do. So, yes, I will keep going. We'll keep posting on lots of things. So grateful for you and all your hard work. Thank you. Oh, you're welcome, and thank you for coming. I appreciate it. But good night, everybody. Have a great night. I will be posting this as soon as I can. Hopefully, you've learned a few things and maybe feel a little bit better. Hopefully, we'll see. But Yes, and Hawk, it's good to see you as always. So take care, everybody. I'll go ahead and sign off for now, and I'll be back on again before you know it. Take care.